You're gonna start out with the contemplation look like, yeah. Brad and Paddington Brian review.
Going by that thumbnail, it looks like we really didn't enjoy the movie.
That's happened before, where like Dave and I liked Spider-Man Homecoming a lot, but the thumbnail must have caught us off guard or something like that, so we looked pissed.
Yeah, at first I didn't know what to think of that because I saw it pop up. I'm like, it's like, wow, I thought it was supposed to be good, but I don't know.
Judging by this thumbnail.
Pissed off faces, I don't know.
And you can always see the feedback that just judges it on the thumbnail alone, like, oof, that bad, huh?
Dave hated it, surprise.
Dave hates the classics. Dave should have been here, though. He really loves Blade Runner. I'm actually really, really glad this happened. They re-released Blade Runner tonight for, like, one night only that I noticed, unless they also did it last Sunday. And I wanted to watch it again before the second one comes out tomorrow.
Letty and I have been talking about that for like a couple weeks now. Like, it's like, shit, we really need to like sit down and like find a time to like rewatch it, because like,
yeah,
like I know that she said it had been a couple years for her. Like, I can't even fucking remember the last time that I saw it.
It's been since high school for me. I mean, it was one of those cases where like a few beloved movies of the time, it was a film that didn't do gangbusters when it came out in theaters, but found a life for itself on HBO. Like, because I remember as a kid, like, this was like, there was a period there where this was like a staple on HBO. This would be shown a lot.
And yeah, I think that the first time I saw it was actually on HBO, or
same here.
Maybe like a sci-fi marathon on like the old like Sci-Fi Channel.
Mm-hmm. And I remember renting it a few times as well. Like our video store always had the movie, but it's been since high school that I saw the movie. So it is kind of funny that it's me and Dave that are at the second one tomorrow. So he's on his own. He
can watch it or he can't. His call.
And as a bonus, I'm fairly certain I've not seen the final cut, which is the version that they showed here, because the last time I saw this movie, I don't think the final cut was even a thing.
Yeah, because I think the final cut came out for the 25th anniversary.
Yeah.
It's like, I know I've seen, like, way back, like, the original cut, theatrical cut, whatever you want to call it, like, with the monologue stuff in it. And whatever version of it was that they had on like HBO. I can't remember if it was the one with or without.
Because the narration got taken out, I think, around when the director's cut was released.
Possibly. I was looking at it earlier, like, and I mentioned this to you whenever we got here. Like I knew that there were like 3 or 4 cuts of it. There's fucking 7 cuts of this movie.
You count the work print cut, a TV version, maybe, like a cable TV, or not cable, like a edited for television version, maybe. I'm not exactly sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure what all ones there are and the differences, but yeah,
I do know. I was
looking at an article earlier, and yeah, it's mentioned there were 7 like recognized versions of this. I'm like, I can't think of a single other fucking movie like occasionally you'll have like the regular version and then like a director's cut, or like, you know, like the extended cut for like Blu-ray or something like that, but
Caligula's got a lot. At least, unlike with Caligula, like, honestly, I think there might be more versions of Caligula than there are this movie.
Just depends on how much Bob Guccione you want.
Yeah, exactly. Which one has more Guccione? Which one has more Tinto Brass? Which one has more Channel 4? But unlike Caligula, these all versions from what I can kind of remember are roughly about the same length. They're all about hour 56, hour 57 minutes long.
I don't think anything was like as
1 or 2
as drastic as like the differences in like possession, where like the US cut is 86 minutes and the international cut is like over 2 hours. It's like 2:15 or something.
Once Upon a Time in America.
It's like these are just different movies at this point.
And it's been so long since I've seen the movie. Now, this is a movie that I remember loving. This isn't a case where this isn't a case where it's like, you know what, I should maybe see that to refresh whether I like this movie or not. Oh no. There's a reason why I watched it a lot when I was younger, and unfortunately, I just hadn't seen it a lot since. Not for any particular reason, honestly. Just
yeah, I noticed that a lot of times I will watch like bad movies or movies I actively didn't like more times than I've seen legitimately good movies that I would consider like some of like my favorites. Like I'll see a movie like maybe once or twice and be like, that movie's amazing. Like, oh, here's this shit movie. Like, oh man, I gotta show it to Letty. Oh man, like Brad hasn't seen it. Oh shit, we're gonna watch this shit. Like, oh man,
fucking like, ATM.
I've seen that movie like 3 or 4 times now.
But then, like, and it's at the point where I've probably seen Dancing It's On more than I've seen Blade Runner.
But yeah, like a legitimately like great film I've seen maybe once.
I was trying to pick out, like, when I was watching this, what I was picking up on that I didn't remember from before. Now, granted, I'm really just going from the theatrical version here. And a couple, but they were the obvious thing. They were the stuff I knew about walking into this. Of course, the ending, which doesn't have the borrowed footage from The Shining that they threw in there with the happy ending, and the narration. I was explaining to Laura the narration because I'll have to show her some clips of it at home. Like, this was a movie that I always loved, but there was always that one thing about it where I was like, is it just me? Is it just me that this really doesn't work and it seems to be treating me like I'm a fucking idiot? And then, come years later, it was like, okay, it's not just me. Everyone else kind of feels this way. This is a beautiful movie. It's great that it ended up becoming the cult film that it is and the inspiration that it is, this movie that inspired countless things that came after it.
Oh god, yeah. Still to this day.
To this day, it's one of the most inspiring science fiction films ever made. It's one of the best science fiction films ever made. But whenever I would see it, when I was younger, when I was a kid, in the 80s and early 90s, there was always that one thing about it where I'm like, is it just me, or does this not work? And I was explaining it to Laura after this, because Laura had never seen the movie before. Tonight was our first time seeing it, and I was like, yeah, like, I remember, like, at the end with Rutger Hauer, there's this beautiful moment on the rooftop between the two of them.
It's legitimately just one of those, like, perfect scenes. And then just crashing in like a drunk into, like, a house party.
Yeah. Truly, it was then I knew what he was going through. Like,
oh, thanks. Thanks a lot, Harrison. Asshole. This is the moment where everyone's supposed to sit there and think that to themselves, but have you tell us. Well, it's one of those things too, is like, I almost wonder how she'll take it, because having seen it that way and thinking like, oh, this is how it is, and then seeing it without it, you're like, oh, this is much better.
Yeah.
Having the opposite, I almost wonder how that'll go, is like seeing it like without the narration and then having to see it with it is like, oh god, no. Oh, they did this on purpose?
Now imagine watching a whole movie like this, or was the financiers talking them into something they did not want to do. And with Harrison Ford, if there's an actor where you can tell if he doesn't want to do something.
It's like when you see him in like interviews and you can tell like sometimes he's a little animated and other times he's like, yeah. Whatever.
I believe it comes out on Thursday. These noodles sure are good. I'm gonna go back to my apartment now. Atari has taken over the entire planet. It was then that I heard the crunch in my fingers after he broke them. I'm exaggerating, but
it's on the nose. Like it works when you're reading a book, but not when you're watching a movie. And because like you can visualize it, you can hear it. You don't need someone to tell you what is actively happening.
If there's a movie where mood and visuals really need to speak for themselves.
Oh, yeah. because I mean the atmosphere of this film, like that whole like noir, like hard-boiled detective feel, with some of the most confusing visuals, but it works so well together. Like the whole like Asian meets Art Deco.
Atari has taken over the entire world in this universe.
Next year, we know that there will be 3 things we can count on.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess 2 years from now. Atari will be everywhere, which actually kind of lines up since they're working on releasing a new console.
I heard about that, yeah.
So everybody else is going to drop off, apparently.
Uh-huh.
The only soda is Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
And, I don't know, something about geishas smoking. I didn't really catch that one too much, but a lot of geishas smoking. I think that's going to really come into vogue.
Like, honestly, like, all we really need to invent's flying cars, and we're not that far away from this. Like, I love this. This movie's great, because, like, it's so overcrowded and rainy and dirty and grimy here. Like, everything is so overpopulated that...
The future looks awful.
Uh-huh. It looks like the future of Tim Burton's Batman, you know? Like...
There used to be a man that protected these streets.
Like, it's so... Like, they have chase scenes in this movie that are really hard for them to do because you can't step a foot in front of you without maybe tripping over some homeless man or bumping into a car or bumping into 1,000 people going the opposite direction.
The fact that he catches her after she runs out of that nightclub
is a miracle.
Blind fucking luck.
Uh-huh.
Because when you honestly break it down, Deckard is terrible at his job.
Uh-huh.
He is just objectively the worst at his job, and somehow he is also the best at his job because they keep telling us he's the best there is. Which makes me wonder just how many of these replicants are just running the fuck around, because if he's the best they got,
well,
every time he runs into one of them, he gets the living shit kicked out of him.
Uh-huh.
Almost to the point of death, unless he catches just lucky break.
And he's going after the most... Because look, like, regardless of how many or how little replicants live amongst us, you see Rutger Hauer walking towards you. Oh yeah, that's one.
That steely, unfeeling gaze. Yeah, no, he's a fucking machine. Duh.
And Daryl Hannah looking like future Clan of the Cave Bear. Like, oh, that's either that is either a replicant or they're on their way to the shoot of Purple Rain, or both.
So they made that movie so cheap.
Yeah. And what's cool, because it is a movie about this, he's a cop, you know, and I can see why maybe originally they think like, oh, narration might work in something like this, because it is kind of going for this neo-noir thing.
But kind of giving it that, like, Sam Spade, like,
yeah,
it's like, and then in walks the dame.
Yeah, but it's not.
But you don't need that. It's not a fucking radio play. We're okay with just relying on it. I mean, I could maybe see more narration if there was just legitimately less dialogue. Like, if the movie was more internalized.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not. Like, so you've got a voiceover that's competing for screen time with actual conversations. Granted, half the conversations in this movie make zero fucking sense, or they're in, like, Mandarin. So, I mean, it's kind of hit or miss if it's really impeding.
It's a sci-fi art film, really.
But
I mean, what's cool about watching this movie is that there are stretches where there's not a lot of dialogue, but it's in all these scenes where this is a really world-building movie. Like, it is letting you soak in the atmosphere of this world that we're living in. It's giving you a glimpse into what it's it's like to live here, to fly above it, to kind of deal with this on a daily basis.
Well, in one of the big places that I ever see like overdone dialogue or overdone voiceovers is honestly in a lot of like anime and stuff like that, because while it might be like a quiet contemplative scene, and like if you're listening to it with like the original, you know, audio just like with some subtitles, there are quite a few where like when you switch it over to the English voiceover, it's just like non-stop talking.
Yeah.
It's like they feel like they have to like fill that like, you know, silent time with nonsense, because it's a different, you know, it's a different kind of culture, it's a different kind of, you know, whatever you have it. You know, like the scene plays differently for different crowds. But it's not like this was being, you know, like translated into some different language. Like it's not like, oh, well, he'll need to talk us through this because we're not sure what's happening here. Like, no, I mean, whether it's a, you know, hot dog stand or a fucking noodle cart, like, we understand that he's getting takeout on the street. I mean, it could have been fucking anything. Like, it's not like it's not like, oh, what's this? Eating in public? Like, who's heard of such a thing?
Well, I like that as the movie goes along and as this cop figures out, because he's you know, he's given this what appears to be a fairly straightforward, simple assignment, honestly, and as it's going along, it's this guy and the audience as well humanizing these replicants that we've just kind of been shown at the beginning are that, you know, they're the villains, they're the lead characters track them down, they kill them, and as it goes along and as you're seeing things from their point of view and everything, you sit there and you're like, oh yeah, I understand why they're pissed.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, it makes perfect fucking sense. Like, you wake up and you're an adult with maybe not some memories, and then you find out like, oh, and by the way, you'll be dead in 4 years.
Yeah.
But until then, we're gonna just work you like a fucking horse.
And it was really smart of him to put actors like Rutger Hauer, like Brian James, like Daryl Hannah in there, who look like movie villains. I mean, you know, that's what they look like. They look like, you know, okay, look at the surface right here. Here's here's Harrison Ford as a cop in the future. These are the people he's chasing. You get an idea in your head of like, okay, well, that's the protagonist. There's the antagonist, and what this movie gives you, especially at the end when Rutger Hauer is talking to him on the rooftop and everything. It's like, yeah, man, like, yeah, shit really sucks for you guys. Like,
well, not only that, like, after like Harrison Ford has spent the entire movie trying to actively murder him.
Right, yeah.
And then he's like, yeah, I'll save your life.
Right, he's trying to actively murder them in a thing that's not even called a murder or execution. It's called a bullet in the head is retirement. I'm like, fuck yeah, I'd be pissed off if I was Rutger Hauer.
It's like, we think so little of you as individuals that it's not even killing you. I can shoot you in broad daylight and everyone will look like, what the fuck? Is like, replicant. It's like, alright.
You could just shoot them in the back as they're running and flying through glass windows, and no one around is even giving a flying shit about it.
Not a single person was phased. They're like, whatever, I've got to get over here to like the neon light shop.
Yeah.
Gotta buy a new see-through trench coat.
No, yeah, that's what's one of the main things that's really cool about this movie. I mean, it's Blade Runner. It's a movie where the mood and the atmosphere of the film is really part of the stars of it, but it is a really gripping storyline. It's really provocative with its characters, with its protagonists, its antagonists, but man, you can still just sit there and just marvel at everything that's on the screen, from the cityscapes to the architecture, to just little things like those little strobe lights going through the alleyways and things like that. And it was making me think about too, like, because we all know like the notable things that came afterwards that were heavily inspired by this film, but then like also thinking too about like the like the direct-to-video movies and the really, really B movies. Like, you remember Split Second with Rutger Hauer, where it was in the future and he's after some alien beast, but it's like a world where global warming has completely like taken over to where every city is flooded, so through the whole movie they're all going like knee deep in water.
I know I've probably seen that.
It's the one where, if you remember the box cover, I think it's like him with like these tiny like little sunglasses and he's got like a big gun over his shoulder and shit.
Okay, yeah.
Like movies like that. Also with Rutger Hauer.
Like a Blade Runner type movie, but you're the hero this time. Well, the real, like the upfront hero.
Like I was thinking about things like that. I think there's like a Finnish version of Blade Runner as well. I'm sure it's got a title other than Finnish Blade Runner.
It's not like
Ed about that.
It's not like the Turkish movies where it would just be called Turkish Blade Runner.
It's like they could have the word parrot in the title because like the Deckard guy on the cover has got a parrot on his shoulder.
Parrot cap.
But I was thinking about a lot of those too.
But yeah, I mean, because it really is like a movie that, like, half the sci-fi stuff that's out there right now couldn't exist without it coming first. Because hell, like the most obvious comparison for about anything would really be stuff like Ghost in the Shell. Like it practically takes place in the exact same world.
Yeah.
Like if they could figure out I'm sure that there's probably plenty of fan fiction about it. But yeah, it seems like the sort of thing like I'm sure it wouldn't take more than 2 steps to get those 2 franchises connected if they ever felt like doing it. But yeah, I mean, from fucking everything, from like a lot of like animated stuff like Cowboy Bebop and stuff like that. Just taking a lot of like really heavy cues from it as far as like the like noir feel of it and all, you know, like the way like kind of like their view of the future basically being the present but dirtier and with more cables.
So Overcrowdy's living on the 97th floor, which apparently has like 50 plus some apartments on that already.
And it's such a weird apartment, like everything's textured. The fact that when he goes in there and it's like hello, it echoes.
Yeah, I love future 80s.
But yeah, I mean, and this really is the epitome of like, if they're like, okay, well, it's 1985, so I'm sure the future will look like now, but worse. So it's like, okay, well, what kind of things were happening in the 80s? Like, well, like the Asian consumer markets were like really ramping up and everything. So let's assume that America is also half Asian at this point. And because that's the thing that comes up a lot is like the whole like America Chinese sort of like mashup with a lot of sci-fi stuff. Because again, like stuff like Cowboy Bebop does that, Firefly does that,
Rock Dog.
Rock Dog. And even like stuff like the fucking like the Matrix, like the Matrix code is all made up of different like, you know, like characters and you know, kanji and different things like that, you know, as opposed to words or
just like letters. A friend request. That's not code.
It's her.
Who was the poor jackass who was in there right now watching friend request while Blade Runner is playing across the way? Is that Blade Runner up there? Oh, right on. Anyway, one for friend request. Because no one else is going to see it with us.
Oddly fitting, as he has no friends.
Yeah.
God damn it.
Just out of curiosity, there was one time, just like a week or two ago, when friend request came here, I was here seeing something with Sarah. I was like, I'm kind of curious, is there anyone in the theater for this? And I went into the friend request theater. First of all, jarring to see that projected on a big screen.
After already watching it a few times at home.
Yeah. There's nobody in there. There was no one fucking in there.
Well, A, it's just a bad idea for a movie anyway, but B, the fact like it had been out for so fucking long. It's like, it's not even like those situations where they're like, oh no, we're worried about ticket sales because of like a screener print of this landed on the internet like 2 weeks in advance.
Yeah.
It's like, this movie's been out there. Like, you can find it. It's one of those, I wouldn't even be surprised if it was on like flipping through like Hulu or like Amazon Video or something, like, oh, here it is. You can watch it for free with Prime.
Oh, I want to say like the Unicorn Dream was something that I didn't remember from before. When Harrison Ford's dreaming and like
when he's playing the piano and all of a sudden it's just...
Was that something that was... Cause that was...
I cannot fucking
I know,
remember.
I couldn't either, but I was like, I'm pretty sure that's something that's new. It's Ridley Scott foreshadowing Legend.
It cut right before it went back over to, like, Tim Curry.
Yeah. I forgot Satan was in this.
Terrifying. Although I'm pretty sure Satan was in this. Fucking Edward James Olmos,
yeah.
Man. Jesus Christ.
Edward James Olmos as the BIM executive from the Apple shows up in this.
Gotta make sure everybody's getting in their BIM hour.
It was then that I got the BIM mark that he handed to me.
But he just looks like... He looks like in any other movie, he would have been dressed exactly the same, but playing, like, Lucifer or something like that. In this, he's just so... like, bizarre. Like, I don't even know what ethnicity he's supposed to be playing.
It looks like if on Miami Vice he switched places with Crockett and had to go undercover as a drug mule in Miami. And that's the costume he put together.
It's like, I'll blend in seamlessly. Mustache.
You actually are kind of blending in there, man.
Wearing his like 17-piece pimp suit with a cane, but he's still like that's just his police uniform, I guess. Like,
I don't know what everybody's favorite version of this is. I think from what I have kind of seen over the years, I think most people kind of gravitate towards the version that's known as the director's cut. As for the final cut, I don't know, but like I can really only compare it to the theatrical, but even then, like, it's been 15 plus years since I watched that, so...
And yeah, I'm honestly kind of curious, like, whenever I get home to, like, actually look up and just see, like, okay, well, what are the differences between all of these that warrants all this?
Well, and plus, like, I'm curious to see, because I'm sure our comments will be filled with, and in the chat as well, our comments will be full of people talking about the exact same thing, who've seen it more recently than I have, and all the different versions more so than I have as well. But I can say that if you're someone out there who prefers a theatrical version, I get it in the sense that that's a version that a lot of people grew up with. I liked it at the time.
Yeah, because I mean, a lot of times, like, stuff like that, like, the first version you see is generally the one that you kind of gravitate towards.
Yeah.
It's like, well, it's a slightly different comparison, but like stuff like the Star Wars movies, like the originals. I still like the way I saw them the first time.
Those are genuinely better. There's not... There's no version of Blade Runner that adds in the CGI alien lounge singer and the dude go...
If there's not an encore from the Max Rebo band, then I don't want to fucking watch it. But no, like I've seen like a couple, like the re-releases where they added in just a couple extra things, then like the later editions where it's like, here's a bunch of shit, like I don't need more banthas in here, I just want to watch the movie the way I remember watching it, with fewer like
stop
radius explosion.
Yeah, it's like, stop putting in your shitty computer effects. I'd prefer good special effects, thank you.
It's like, I was fine with it the way it was, but that's just me. But I know that a lot of people were probably like that with this too. It's like, oh, I've seen the version with the, like the voiceover, 20 times. Like, it's like when I watch it without it, like, it just seems wrong. Like, I'm sure that there's somebody out there like that. But I'm honestly kind of curious just to figure out, like, which version is considered like the true version.
Like Final Cut versus Director's Cut. I think the Final Cut. It's the one they're showing, so I'm assume that's the one that the
yeah,
new
like
one's
that's
a sequel to.
That's what I would lean towards. But maybe this one is just the one that got put in theaters because it's the most recent.
Oh, and it came in the sweet briefcase too when they released it. I remember that. I remember it coming in like that like steel briefcase.
It's like, oh, I'm gonna take a Von Kampf. Like, psych, it's just the Blu-ray.
It's like when my copy of Scarface came in a giant cigar box.
It just came in a saran wrap and duct tape packet of cocaine.
Yeah, I might as well have. There was
Cut it open and pull the disc out.
There was a money clip inside of it. There was a money clip. There were like cards. There was like a copy of the original Scarface. And like the money clip. I'm not going to use this money clip. I already spent all my money to buy a cigar box of Scarface. Man. I don't have that anymore. That got stolen years ago.
I miss the fun collector's editions like that.
Showgirls one with the shot glasses, and it had like Pin the Pasty on the Showgirl games.
Like the weird, like the copy of Memento I have.
Oh, that confusing like, ass one.
It's like a file folder with all kinds of post-it notes on it.
Yeah, shit. I've got that where it takes you like a half hour to work the menu. I just like, want to hit play.
How many of these tests do I need to take? I already had an IQ test this year, something like that.
It's testing us to see if we're a replicant. If you can figure out the Memento DVD. I think I did. I can't remember. I think I might still be working on that, honestly. It's been over a decade. Alright, well, tomorrow is Blade Runner 2049. If you're planning on going to see it, I highly recommend refreshing on the first one. Especially if you're like us and it's been a number of years.
Yeah. Because I like I say, I'm not sure to what extent it's going to rely on it, but anytime you have a movie with recurring characters and the last movie came out a couple decades
35 years ago,
it's kind of worth refreshing just in case.
Yeah. As for what version you watch, that's up to you, man. I mean, I can vouch for this. I can vouch for this one. It's called one of the best sci-fi films for a reason, because it fucking is. It's an emotional experience and a half.
And there's plenty of time between now and then. You can watch all 7.
Okay. Yeah, just watch all 7 copies. Fuck it. I've seen every version of Caligula. I think. That might not be true. Anyway, see you tomorrow night.